All right. Midvision, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
How are you?
Nice to be here. I'm good. I'm doing very good.
Welcome to, first time here as well.
First time PHOTOMAFIA, yeah.
Not first time in Northampton though?
Not first time in Northampton. I've been here a couple of times. Yeah.
Fair enough, because are you from London originally?
No, so originally I'm from Woking, which is just outside of London.
Okay.
It's more south than here. And I've been a bit all over the place. I moved to Portsmouth for a little bit. And then I ended up moving to Brighton. Getting involved in the music scene there.
With the Hellbound crew. And
yeah. So I've been living with a couple of people from Hellbound. Shout out Hellbound,
Nice.
of course.
Who are becoming like half of the guests of these podcasts all of a sudden.
Yeah, which is cool though, because it's, branching all the way from Northampton to Brighton. It's a long trip.
And feeding,
so it's nice.
Connecting those scenes up a little bit, thanks to mainly Takara, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true. I think that's something the scene needs a lot as well. Something that I'm quite big on is I feel like we're all stronger together. And in creative scenes, it can be very much a thing of you're the artist and you get very stuck in your own creative process in your own head. And rather than lifting each other up or building something for the culture, a lot of people get very stuck in, I don't know if it's ego, but it's definitely something. And it can end up actually having a negative impact on everyone, not just themselves.
When everyone hates each other, especially in a subculture, it doesn't tend to work out because you need everyone to be sort of like together, you know what I mean?
So if we ever want the subculture to become the culture and become, something bigger than just a niche level, you know what I'm saying? Then
we can't all hate each other.
Work together, build each other up to help build the bridge between people.
Yeah, so you're a musician, right?
Yeah.
And then also you do some events as well.
Yeah. I run an events company with my boy, Dead Star, shout out.
Nice.
Called Still Breathing. I've got the merch on right now.
Yeah.
We've just dropped these. We're going to be selling them at our next show on the 17th. So in a few days' time, yeah.
Very nice. Where's that? Just for, not that this will be out even remotely in time.
It's going to be in London, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So is it mainly... The event stuff is based in London, right?
Yeah. So far, all of the shows we've done have been in London. I think it's our fourth one now, Fourth one, volume 4, yeah.
How would you describe the shows? Because obviously, it seems like it's a gig, but to people listening, that could be a jazz orchestra.
Yeah, that's true, no one knows. So a lot of our events so far, we've been having a lot of, it's all alternative music. There's a lot of trap artists, but we have post-punk elements to it. There's people doing a bit of everything. You've got a real mixed bag, and I think that's one of the things that we said when we started it, is that we saw so many shows where it was just sticking to one lane, where it's super trap night, or something like this, and it's we wanted to have lineups where there's people on the lineup that we knew of, we know of everybody on the lineup, but we've never seen them and never would see them on a lineup together. This person shouldn't be on a lineup together, but it works so well. And as I said before, it's that way of bringing people together that never would usually meet in a way for them to connect and build the culture.
Yeah,
because then they can do that separate to Still Breathing. Yeah,
and finding that sort of crossover between those guys who wouldn't normally go on lineup, and that's sort of where I feel like you find something a bit new rather than just packaging everything the same as it's been before and just going along with it. So that's why it feels sort of a bit different than a lot of other sort of like you say, those ones where it's here's the trap music night, here's drum and bass night. It feels like something sort of new and kind of run by the artists who are actually making the and the people who are going.
It's really it's done very in-house, and it's not someone who's just doing it because they like this specific genre and just want to listen to the music they like. Sometimes I might not even like the artist's music, but I know other people do, and I know it's something that's good for the culture, and it's good. It's not even just about bringing the artists together. It's even a lot of photographers, videographers, stuff like this. They're coming to an event and tapping in with artists that they would usually never know of or never communicate with or whatever, and then they end up working on a music video together or this or that, and it's I think that's something that I find very rewarding about it.
Yeah, and seeing what comes from it. That's here in the studio we have the similar sort of thing where people come through to the exhibitions and you link up the most random people, then they just go and do something, and you're oh, and they met each other because they came to our thing, and we're sort of
it's that butterfly effect.
A little just breeding ground for creativity that just runs out of control, which is really cool.
That's the interesting thing I find about creativity and projects as well, because it's something that's it's never just it's never in your control how everything plays together. That's why I said butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Because something will happen, or you'll meet up with somebody, or you'll go to this thing, this event, or whatever. And when you look back in maybe a year's time, there's been this series of things that have kind of, you know, like it's like a snowball that rolls and rolls and rolls, and gets bigger and bigger, and then you see this bigger picture of how everything's tied together. And I think it's like, it's something that doesn't come from us. It can't really be planned. You can do a lot to plan your creative endeavors, but at the same time as that.
But you still have to be open, and you can put things in place that like facilitate the process. You know what I mean? Like the event, or like bringing people together. But it's like, it's always interesting to look back and be like, oh, I did that with this person because 6 months before I did something with this person, and I only met them because of this other random thing. And it's always kind of like,
off the back of that, a song gets made between two artists, and then that song does well, and then that song changes somebody's perspective on music, and then that person ends up growing up to make a song that saves somebody's life, and then that person, and it's like this whole butterfly effect, and it's like, I feel like with creativity, there's a lot of different things that you can do to kind of, like when we're talking about the creative process, there's a lot of things you can do to kind of, to help out your creative process and help ideas flow and help you come up with, you know, your sound, or your, even if it's not music, whatever it is, your essence as an artist. But at the same time, I feel like it comes from somewhere else. It doesn't really, it's almost like sometimes I'll have such a writer's block for ages, and I'll be trying to write a song, and I just can't for months. And I've got to the point now where if I can't write, I just won't. Sometimes I won't write for months. And then all of a sudden, for a week, every single day, I'll
and it just
make
flows.
It just flows and flows and flows. And it's like these songs are being gifted to me. Like, I'm not coming up with it. Something will come into my mind that I've never thought of before. I haven't thought of that word for 6 months. It will just pop into my mind. I'll be like, oh, what about this and this and this? And then it snowballs again with the snowball. And it's like this, it creates this picture. But it's almost like it feels like it's coming from some creative force, or the creative force, rather than, you know, always from me. It's like a gift that's given to me.
Yeah. And it's just like acting on that.
Yeah.
It's
like just running with it rather than shying away from it. Just going full force and being like, So
that's interesting, because I kind of feel that too, where sometimes it's like you don't feel like you're the one creating it, because you're like, it's not like you sit there and plan out meticulously every single little detail. You're just kind of like doing stuff, and then whatever forms for it forms. Happens. And it's like something you'd never have like just thought of beforehand.
No.
Like it's...
Sometimes you like start something with one image in mind, and then a whole other thing comes out of it, and then you're like, you're even happy with the result though, and you're like, wow, where the fuck that came from?
I think like the worst part is like in photography, it's very much like people get obsessed with like controlling it within like precise things, which is like fine for certain things if you're trying to achieve a certain thing, but it then becomes like an issue where like you're trying to be so precise that it's actually like boring for you when you're making it, because you're like, okay, it's gonna do this because I know it's gonna do that, and you kind of, and if it goes wrong, then you have a tendency just to be like, fuck this, get rid of it, instead of just like appreciating it for what it is.
The imperfections as well.
Yeah,
because that's another thing that's like, excuse me, I feel like I was actually talking about this yesterday, I feel like with AI coming, a lot of art is going to become very perfect. And then I think the beauty and the imperfections is going to become a lot more obvious to people over time.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that with being so precise, it can almost be, you know, sometimes an imperfection can actually make something more raw and more real and more honest.
And it feels more like a person created it. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just needs that little bit to stop feeling so like robotic. Like you said, it's like it was made by a machine.
Exactly.
Sort of,
and especially with photography, because sometimes, obviously, it depends what you're photographing, but you're trying to capture a moment, and that's something that's very human. It can't really be done robotically. It just happens. And some of that, again, comes down to luck. It's almost like that moment was gifted to you. You happen to be in that place at that time. You can put yourself into certain places and try and look for moments, but at the same time, sometimes you might not be looking for something that just happens, and you get this picture, and it's like, wow.
Yeah. And do you know when the universe gives you the best moments? It's the one time you leave your fucking camera at home and you're walking down the street and you're like,
I can imagine,
damn it. You're like, the one day I'm like, no, it's fine, I'll leave it at home. It's like, it's weird. But then sometimes you'll carry around your camera for like 4 days straight and just be like, nothing. You know what I mean? It's like very sort of strange. But I feel like in photography it seems more interesting because you are just like, you're taking photos of something that like already exists.
Yeah.
As it's interesting you're saying that as a musician, because like, I don't know, you're like creating something from scratch.
Yeah.
As like photography is like, you just
something's
copy
there.
something,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like you freeze
yeah.
a moment, but it's already, like that moment still exists.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about like dancing around that moment, because you could get a certain angle of it that just completely changes everything about it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and you can have another certain angle that makes the coolest thing ever look just like dead.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
But yeah, it's just strange how like you say that applying it to music though, with like stuff being given to you, like because are you just sitting there and it's just like lyrics or
I mean a lot of the time I'll have a beat and I don't know, sometimes nothing really happens, and as I said, like sometimes it's literally like it's being gifted to me, these ideas are coming into my mind can be quite manic, so I'm trying to keep up with what's being put into my mind, and sometimes it's all just happening, and I don't know, it's weird, sometimes I'm trying to keep track of my thoughts, and then I end up writing something without even thinking about what I'm trying to remember a different line, because I'll get like 10 lines come into my mind at once sometimes, which sounds really weird, but it actually happens. I'm trying to write them all down, like at once.
You only write so fast.
Yeah, exactly. And while I'm doing that, sometimes like a completely different line will just get written that I don't even really feel like I have written. It's just happened, and I'm like, oh, well, let's run with that idea actually. And then I'm like, it goes from there, and it's really weird. I don't know if that happens for all musicians or if that's personal, but I don't know. That's why I kind of feel like sometimes it's a gift. And I think some people, they have a gift musically with their voice, but also the gift isn't just your voice, because I know a lot of people who have an amazing voice, but it's your ability to tap in with that creative essence, that otherworldly kind of energy which comes from creativity. Especially, it's such a like pure thing, music, and it can bring out like the rawest emotions and memories from people. It completely can change people's perspectives on life. It can change the way people act, the way people carry themselves, especially young people. And I think that's something that's like really interesting about, and that's why it's like it's a very spiritual thing, and it's like it holds a lot of weight. And I think
it's like probably the only art form that if you go back far enough, it exists in like every facet of like society, you know what I mean? Like even like, you know, tribal music and stuff. All like
exactly.
It's always seen as like important in like every society in like different ways and stuff. But like it's
even like
it's
frequencies as well. Like music is frequencies, and that's something that's so important. Like I don't know. That's something even just personally, like if I'm not listening to music, I'll be listening to a frequency, and just letting it do its thing and letting it play, and like in the background.
When you say a frequency, do you mean literally just like a
like
white noise, like one?
It can be, but it's like a meditation frequency. So you got like 936 hertz is the God frequency is what it's known as.
Right.
And then you've got like, I think it's like there's 543 and 432, and there's a lot of different frequencies that can be used for different things. But there's some in particular that I've found. It showed me how powerful just the frequencies and the mathematics behind it can be, rather than there's no lyrics, there's no nothing, it's just a frequency. And you can tune certain like peaceful sounds like from nature to that frequency, and that's why they put it on YouTube and they make it like, you know, and they do whatever they do with it. But even just hearing that frequency on its own, which like you said can just be one long noise, it's like it's healing for your soul. It does something to you, and I feel like frequencies can be manipulated within music as well. I
guess in music it's like a combination of different ones. So I guess it's probably like you're probably peeling it back to like the rawest form of.
You can open up someone's soul through frequencies, and that's how it can be used for good or bad. Because if you open up someone's soul for a certain frequency and open up their third eye, even just slightly, but then you're saying some bullshit on the song, that's really like that can be really damaging, like subconsciously to you. But if you're playing a frequency and is actually like a positive message behind the song, then it's a lot of artists do this and know about this, and it's something that you can really use to benefit people and to help them, or the other way.
Interesting, because like a lot of creatives, they come and talk about like work that's kind of like good and has a good message and stuff, but not a lot of people talk about like how you can like seriously fuck someone up if you're not careful. It's like almost true. Like a like drink responsibly, or like create responsibly as well.
Responsibly and create responsibly. And I've had songs that I've made that I'll never release, because even sometimes like the message will seem positive to me, but I know that that's me though, and I get what I'm trying to say, and it's very metaphorical. To someone else, they don't. And it's like, sometimes I'd be pushing the boundaries anyway in certain songs, and especially certain ones that I'm going to be releasing, where it's like, it could come across negative in some way. But then I'm kind of more of the mindset now where it's like, I know what I mean by this, and if other people want to listen to it in this way and they want to take this from it, I can't control how they're going to take everything. So I just need to express myself and hope that some people get the message behind it.
Yeah, right.
But I can't control that.
Yeah, that goes for like a lot of art. Like as soon as you put it out there, unless you write something next to it that goes like specifically, this is what you're meant to think about it. Yeah. But like
that takes away from
away from the actual experience. Exactly. And then, but the flip end of that is like someone looks at something or listens to something and just makes up their own mind and has an opinion about it. Yeah. And it can be completely wrong, and you can't do anything, because it's like, well, that's what they got from it. So that partially got to mean that, if that's what someone got from it, like, you know what I mean?
And at the end of the day, like, I listen to all kinds of music, even music which I know deep down, like, okay, I probably shouldn't be listening to this. But, is one of them things where it's like you said, listen responsibly. Because at the same time, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that if I listen to King Von talking about fucking murdering people every day over trap beats and laughing about it and this and that, that's good for your mind to listen to, because it's not.
Yeah.
And I've like, just with that artist specifically, I went through a phase of listening to him a lot, and I could just feel that it lowered my vibration as a human being. Like it made me, I wouldn't say it completely changed my mind, because I'm a very aware personally, but I'm a very aware person, but it did, I found myself like driving to or back from the gym, and I just felt slightly off, and like, I don't know if I want to be listening to this right now.
Way
because if you're just, words are so important. The words you say to yourself, the universe will reflect, especially if you're singing along to a song. That's another thing that I'm saying about music can be dangerous as well. It can be beautiful too. I'm not here trying to fucking lecture people. I'm just saying.
But it's like an interesting
about it. But like with that kind of music, it's something that if you're listening to, you're repeating. It's almost like an affirmation. You're affirming with yourself every day, like something which is, when you really break it down, okay, that's negative. Not even to say the artist is negative, but the situations they've been put in, and the life that they're living, and the way their consciousness, their vibration is now at a low place. Is the same with, I used to listen to a lot of like Lil Peep and like very emo music. Right. I don't listen anymore, because I don't want to be a victim anymore. And it's very victim mentality music. It's like very, very like, poor me. I am this tortured soul. And I do listen to music sometimes like that, because everyone has them times. But if you're listening to that as your whole thing, then all you're doing is manifesting that into your life.
Yeah, and keeping it going. And I guess the other interesting thing about music, it's like, you can listen to it like passively. Like, you don't have to be like, I'm gonna sit in front of the record player and like watch it go round as I listen to it. You like, people listen to music in the background, or it's like as you're walking around. So that's when it can kind of get, like we're talking about, that sort of like, it can creep in kind of thing. And it's like, you could just have Spotify and shuffle and all those messages come in, you know what I mean? Or it's like propaganda into your brain.
No,
sort of thing.
I've had that before. I fall asleep like watching like a podcast, and it's about something really interesting. I wake up like 8 hours later, or however long I've slept for, and there's like fucking the news playing, and it's like some bullshit propaganda in my ear, and I'm like, okay, so I've just been sleeping in my REM sleep, in my most susceptible time. I've been taking in all of this, and then I actually feel shit that day. Like I actually feel like
probably
shit.
have weird dreams as well.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, it happens all the time. That's why I got to never fall asleep watching YouTube, because you don't know what you're taking in. Same with music, to be honest.
Open, yeah,
if you want to fall asleep to something, play a frequency, because it will help you sleep as well. And it'll help you within your REM sleep. And yeah.
I think that's the same with like, you know, like reels and short form stuff, because you never know what the next thing's gonna like be. So it's just like, you could be like watching something really cool about something positive, and then you swipe and it's like, oh, you just watched someone get killed or something.
No,
like, you know what I mean?
But it's like it's negative, because
you
like,
can't control what's going to be thrown at you.
Exactly. And the human brain, I feel like, isn't supposed to go through that many emotions in such a short time period. It's too manic for our brain. It's like one video you're happy, the next minute you're pissed off, the next video, like, it's going up, down, up, down, up, down. And you're going down, then you're getting these dopamine shots. And like, you know, when you're talking biologically, like, you know, our brains and bodies aren't wired for that. That's not how nature is. Like, it's a very long process. Like, if you want to attain food, it's a very long process. If you want to attain anything, it's a process. It's not just this quick fire, like up, down, up, down, up, down. And our brains get tired and they get upset, because it's like, what are you doing to me? Like, it's almost like, and you end up
system,
and you reprogram your brain to think that that's how life works, and then you struggle to work because, you know, you're not getting that instant reward. That's something that I've kind of grappled with, and I'm starting to get a bit better at. But
same here. Just like concentrate. I think it's like for anyone who's like our age, though, it's just like, because we're just bombarded with shit constantly and stuff. So it's like interesting. But I've never, like I said, like I've never really considered it when it comes to music. Like you're saying, like it can just be. But I feel like it's weird, because it's like, you saying it makes a lot of sense, but I have like thought it before, because depending on what you listen to, it does completely shift how you go about the rest of your day and stuff. And it's like, even just small things, like, you know, it's true, like we do photo shoots, and if people come in and they're like real awkward, the first thing that happens, you're like, what music do you want on Spotify? And then after 5 minutes, it's like they're in their sort of zone again. You're like, oh, this is chill. As if you just leave them in silence and they've like, I don't know, listen to something weird on the way here. You're open for them to behave oddly or however they want.
That's the thing. That can be a positive thing. It's almost like how music can hypnotize people, or can remind them of a certain time when they listened to that song and they felt a certain way. So they listen to a certain thing and it makes them feel like them. But also, I think that people should be better at sitting alone with their thoughts, or sitting in silence, being comfortable within that. But it's difficult, of course, but I think nothing worth having is easy. I feel like everyone should always be, every day, waking up and trying to figure out a way that they could be better, a way to take accountability for where they are, and like, okay, well, when I'm in this situation, I feel like this. Okay, well, how can I change that? Rather than just accepting that that's just the way it is. You know what I mean?
And like, as well, like you can, because obviously, like you can consume weird shit and like mess up your brain for like the worst, but you can do the opposite as well if you're like consciously go on Spotify and pick out certain things. Like, how many people have like a work playlist? You know what I mean? And it tends to be like not stuff with lyrics in it, and like gets you in a certain headspace. Or like if you know you're going to go out later, you play more fucking hyperactive music or something. Or if you know, it's like you can shift your mood, and it's like being aware of that. As if you just hit shuffle, then you are just like bouncing around more, you know. And it's I don't even know where I'm going with this, but
I completely get you, because it's like when if I go to like the gym or something like that, it's massively like changes what I'll be listening to. I found myself before like I always go back to Kanye when I'm in the gym, to be honest, because it's the one music that's like, I am the shit, and it's like I need that when I'm in the gym. I need to feel like that. You know what I mean? I'll start listening to something else, like I don't know. I don't know. Certain music will push you further, and that's where I'm saying it can be positive, and it can, it can open up your mind to
just whatever else you're doing. That's like the benefit of it being a passive thing as well, because you can listen to it while you do something else as well. Like you can just have it in the back of your mind. Speaking of music, though, you've got an EP coming up with Anti.
So I've got an EP with Anti coming up called Antivision, which is kind of like, it's a mix of trap sounds, but I'd say it touches on quite a few different sounds. more time when we were making it, it was with YouTube beats, and I was just searching up artists that I like, type beat, and then we were just going through them. Then we look at each other, be like, yeah, that's the one. We're doing that right now. So you know, it's got a lot of icy twat kind of beats. I think it's like a snot type beat or something like that. But yeah, I guess you'll have to wait and see how it's gonna sound. But we've got a music video planned for it, and yeah, it's all very exciting. I've also got my own personal music that I've got coming out. I've got an EP that I'm working on, along with a few singles. To be honest, I'm trying to finish the mix on a lot of these, so it's like just getting it to sound to that level where I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna, because I've released stuff before without it sounding perfect, so I just end up removing it because I'm like, no, it's not good enough. But that stuff's more like of a I don't know, it's like it's got trap sounds to it. It's got some like pitched up, like really evil sounding lyrics where I'm like screaming and shouting and like doing weird voices and shit. I don't know. It's very experimental, I'd say, the EP.
Are you like thinking about all the like stuff we just spoke about, like the frequencies and like how it affects? Is that part of the process? Or
I'd say with a lot of the stuff that I'm saying, this is what I mean. Like I like music that sounds dark, so this is what I always wrestle with, because it's like a lot of the stuff I'm saying, it could sound very negative, but like I mean it in some completely different way to like how it would be perceived. Where it's like, no, that's
how,
not
like,
what I'm saying.
The gut reaction to it is different than the actual sort of.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like an example maybe from a song. It's like, okay, if I said in the song, I feel 30,000 eyes on me when I start speaking, I feel like to people that would come across as like anxiety. I feel anxious when I feel like everyone's staring at me when I speak. To me, I'm talking about visualization and visualizing the people that are going to be listening to my music, and I'm affirming with myself the specific amount of people. And that's just a random example from a
but
song.
But it could be taken like both ways, and it works both ways.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So it's like if they want to feel that and they are an anxious person, that they're currently stuck in a mindset as well of like vulnerability or of even like victim mentality and not, taking accountability for their emotions that they're feeling. If they're stuck within that, then that's fine. That's like they can feel that and they can listen to it in that way. And I hope that in time they will learn to, you know what I mean? They will learn the way that I'm saying it, but it's
kind of like that mindset there.
Okay, like I've gone past the point now. I was like, I don't want to judge them for that. Like that's okay. That's where they're at. That's where they're supposed to be right now, because things will always work out in time.
And they're on their own sort of path, and
they'll learn whatever lessons they need to learn. But
and then they'll come back and listen to the music again. So it's two streams for the price of one, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So But the music I have out now, I've got a lot of music with Lyric, who's from he's in Hellbound. He's from Brighton, and that's more like it's more like got like an alternative rock post-punk sound to it. There's a lot of screaming vocals on it, and like his is very like I don't know. It almost sounds like, what's the word for it? It's like a ballad almost.
Right.
Like it sounds like it's very dark and very like gothic sounding, and I've got more kind of like shouty vocals on it. And I know we've worked really well together. Our most recent EP we dropped called Propane Serenade. One of the songs from that just reached 20,000, I believe, on Spotify. So and we've got a music video actually. I forgot about that. Sick. We've got a music video for that that's dropping very soon. I don't know the date yet, but it's all been recorded and edited. I've just been very busy with the show, and then we're gonna, discuss exactly what day we want to drop it. Yeah, but it's all ready. Hopefully within the next month or so. So probably by the time this is out, you'll be able to watch that.
Oh yeah,
it's
I think it was
Chambers
definitely
by Midvision and Lyric. I think a lot of people really like that one. It's one that I like playing live a lot as well at the shows.
Sick. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little about the music video? Because it'll most likely be out by the time.
Yeah.
Or like
So the music video for this one, a lot of the imagery that I like to use is very cult looking. I oftentimes, this is probably the first time you've been on camera without a bag on my head. I don't think you've seen this.
I was wondering, because I like looked at your Instagram a little bit before, and I was like, this is going to be interesting if you're wearing that like the whole time.
I was going to, you know, but I thought, you know, maybe this once I won't.
Fair enough. For us.
Yeah. It's
I feel honoured. We got
it's also quite hard to have a conversation.
I can imagine.
It's hard to
perform. It looked pretty,
but it's...
Yeah.
And
it looks like it would be...
It's pretty creepy. So, yeah. But to be honest, yeah, that actually, no, I'll go into that in a minute. I was going to talk about why and how I started wearing that, but it's very, like, culty imagery. In my music videos. I filmed one at a church before, again, with the bag and everything like that. I filmed like some other content for releases that have now been deleted, just like in the woods with like a fucking plastic bag wrapped around me, like suffocating me, like very like creepy imagery is something that I'm really into. But again, often it has like a very positive meaning behind it. But yeah, with this music video, it was very like on a whim. So we knew what day we were recording it. And Buki, the guy who recorded it, I asked Lyric on the day, like, oh, so have you guys like thought of any locations? And they didn't have any in mind. So I said, you know, like half an hour drive away, there's this church. Like when I drive from my parents' house to Brighton, or the other way, and yeah, it's I can't remember exactly where it is now, but it's like this huge. I don't know if it's a church. It's more like a cathedral. Like it's like a. It's one of them towns. You know them towns where it's like they've kept it very old looking.
Yeah,
and like very, it's one of them
it's
ones.
Definitely haunted. Like
yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of
Oh
vibe.
yeah, 100%. So we went there and just shot some footage there. We went for a pint, stood out like fucking so much when we went in. We went into a pub there and just everyone stared at us like, fucking these people. But yeah, we shot it around there. So it kind of fits in with this like theme around like culty imagery. I don't think culty is a word, but you know, the culty.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Imagery, and religion and stuff like this, and it's something that I've always been very interested in. I've actually been thinking about getting the word God tattooed on my face, with quite a number of reasons. I don't know. I find stuff to do with like spirituality and stuff like that very intriguing, and like just. I think it's one of them things where your perspective on it is always going to change and shift, but I think that's something that I really love about it, because I love being able to go into the depths of my minds and even challenge myself. Like I'll never just think something and say it. I'll have already thought about every single argument on the other side and the this and that, and I think that's something that maybe even separates me from a lot of people and a lot of artists, is that I'm constantly just in my head doing that, and it's something that I just enjoy. Like I'll just have debates with myself for hours about like a topic and about my own beliefs, which I think a lot of people struggle to do because they have their set beliefs, and it's like they'll find reasons to believe that. I like to find reasons to not believe it.
Yeah,
and
keep
like,
it
I
sort
like
of
the
open.
change and how things just change and grow and expand, or you know, I find that really interesting.
And it like is, and it kind of I think even as like an artist as well, because it will reflect in your work and sort of the back and forth, like you said, with the lyrics that can be taken in both ways at the same time. Like you wouldn't get those if you hadn't thought about both sides of it, or like
that's what I mean.
Thought about that sort of thing. So it kind of feeds in.
Exactly. It's like when sometimes I write a lyric and then I come up with the meaning afterwards. It will just come into my brain. I'm like, yeah, what does that mean? I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, this completely links to what I've been thinking about recently. And that's why I feel like it's coming from some subconscious part of me or from some other creative force, because it's like, yeah, I don't know, like that just so happens to perfectly link, but it's not something that I was really trying to do. I just wrote a lyric and then I'm like, oh, yeah. That works. That's everything I've been thinking about recently. Yeah,
and like on a episode earlier, we were talking about like how even within work, like you'll finish one project and then be like, oh, okay, so that's how you do it correctly. But what if I do it a different way? And it's like those arguments on like every level of creative. It's just like comes down to like, how do you keep yourself from like getting bored with your own sort of thing, and just like keep it different each time for you, even if it's like, I don't know, running your audience through the ringer because they don't know what to expect. But it's just sort of, that sort of thing of just, I like how you've worded it as like arguing with yourself about.
Yeah, it was about the duality as well of like you said, it reflects because you've got two meanings, but also it's the duality of like this is the light and the dark. So you've got it's like the yin and the yang. You know what I mean? You've got the which way do you want to take this? I don't know. I'm just saying it. It's coming from somewhere else. Sometimes I'm just saying it. I'm taking it in this way. Sometimes I might listen to it and I might want to take it in the other way. I might be like, like I'm not feeling very good today. I want to take this in a negative way because I want to, and because I'm not perfect either. That's why I feel like if anything, it's not just me, it's with all creators. I feel like every creative is like just a vessel, and it's like coming from somewhere else. I feel like Rick Rubin said this as well. A lot of that belief there, I'm not going to completely claim that's my own. A lot of that has come from Rick Rubin and inspired by his way of thinking. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
And one thing that he said about it was that if there's a certain idea that you have and you don't do it, and someone else then does it, you're like, oh, that person stole my idea. But it's not that. It's because that idea was supposed to happen at that point in time. Like, it's pre-written. So a lot of people have been given that idea. A lot of people have been given maybe ideas for songs that I've had, but it's like, okay, so if I don't release this, if I don't get this out there, or if I don't really push my creativity, then someone else is going to do that. The sound that I'm working towards that I want to get to, if I don't get there fast enough, someone else will do it and it'll be robbed from me. But it's like, I have to do that for myself and for my future family because, I want to be able to, I don't want to live with any regret, and I want to be able to say that I've done everything I can do, and I want to be able to, as everyone does, I want to be able to live comfortably. Personally, I want to live away from everybody in the forest. So if I'm going to do that, I need to be, living in a way that's, I don't know, to be honest, unfortunately, you have to be able to make money. And if I want to make money through creativity, I'm going to have to take risks. I'm going to have to be bold and be myself, but also act and not stall on things too much, which is something I think I can work on and we could all work on. But that's one reason that, it links to the thing of Rick Rubin of like, if you don't do this, that idea was supposed to happen. It was gifted to you by somebody. Like, for instance, I haven't really seen that many people making the kind of music I make that have very culty imagery and are wearing a fucking sack on their head and doing like weird shit like that. But I feel like if I didn't do that at some point, someone is going to do that. Like, I think that idea is supposed to happen, and if it's not me, it is going to happen through somebody else. Who knows if it will even be me? Like, maybe I'll fucking fall off and someone else will do it. I would like to believe that whatever is going to happen to me is going to be within my control. I think that, so I'm very much rambling right now, but I feel like
it's giving me, I don't know whether it's just because I've spent a day just drinking coffee, but like you saying about that Rick Rubin thing of like, if you don't do it, someone else is. The back of my mind is on fire being like, there's so much shit that hasn't been done yet, and if we don't do it right now, someone else is going to rob it from me. It's like,
but I think living that way is like, that's kind of how I live, in like a constant state of like, I don't want to say a constant state of stress actually, but it's like, I want to push myself to the limit, because I know that if I don't, then I'm going to live with regret. But also I know that I feel like it's my duty to do that. I feel like it's my duty to push myself to that level and to be who I know that I can be and that I have the ability to be. But there's many different versions of me that exist, and it's like, which one are you going to choose to be? But that gets decided from the present moment, so from what you're doing day to day. If I want to sit around and do fuck all with my time, then cool, but I'll reap the consequences of that. Or I can grind at what I want to do and I can reap the rewards, but that's entirely down to me. And that links to what I was just about to say, where it was like, I never like when people say that they're not in control of things that happen to them or have happened to them ever. I think that every single thing that has ever happened to me in my entire life has been, I would never like to say out of my control. And if there was things maybe when I was a child that were, I would like to say it happened for a reason. It was a lesson and I gained something from it, and I would never change it for the world, no matter how like negative it could be perceived, or how traumatic it could be perceived, because I feel like we're all gods. Like, we're not God, but we're all gods. Maybe we are God, I don't know, who knows, but you know,
isn't that like I can't remember, it's like one of the first things in like Satanism is that you're your own God, and you're responsible for basically everything in your own life. And it's like,
well, that's the thing, and I think a lot of people then get misled into Satanism, because at the end of the day, that message there is positive, and a lot of the messages on the forefront are positive. Like, for instance, that one is like being completely in control of your own reality and being your own God. However, at the same time, I feel like as a whole, it's almost worshipping a darker energy than that. And what, at least with me, when I've gone down the rabbit hole and looked into it, a lot of big red flags have popped out where I'm like,
and there's a lot of people who interpret it in sort of very interesting ways, that they use it as like, so I can just do what I want, fuck everybody, I'm gonna.
So that's where it's like on the forefront it's positive, but then you get under it and it's like,
I'm not sure about this.
But as a whole, that message there, I definitely hold within my life every day. Like, I'll wake up and, like, for instance, if I wake up and I feel depressed, then I will figure out exactly why, and it'll be like, it's something I've done. It's not external to me. Even if it's like someone has done something to me. Say if like I had a friendship with somebody and they did something really hurtful to me and really upset me, and I was feeling really depressed about it. Well, I've done something to bring that energy into my life, or to allow that person to believe that they can act that way towards me, because you teach people how to treat you, for instance.
Yeah,
I think it's something I never like to feel out of control of my own reality.
Yeah,
and I hold myself to that, and then that's the only reason I'm saying this, because it links to the creativity in the work. So it's like, I want to hold myself to a certain standard, which is something I'm still trying to learn, because this mindset, I haven't always been like that. I used to very much be like the person who was very like, had a victim mentality, and to be honest, in the past, a very weak person. I feel like, looking back, I feel like I didn't know how to stick up for myself, or I feel like I wasn't tapped in with the duality. I was picking one side, and like, it's all just light, and it's all just good and happiness, and just be this, and it's all okay. It's like, no, like, you need to be able to tap in with both sides in order to become your highest self. You have to be able to do the shadow work and tap in with your shadow self. And I think that's, again, linked to the duality of what I was saying about the lyrics. So I express that through my lyrics of, like, you know, you got to be able to be dark in order to be light. Like, you got to be able to be dangerous to protect the ones that you love, for instance.
Yeah, and it is quite yin and yang. It's kind of like you can't have one without the other, and they're synonymous, and they're not separated. As like, I think a lot of people do see them as like, you just have to be a really nice person, and you can be a really nice person, especially in creativity, like do stuff for people. But what ends up happening is you get, you know, walked all over, and then you don't actually get to produce anything, and it just spirals out of control. And it's like, you're not always like aware of it, but like it can sneak up. And I think like as you get older, you see things from like almost a mile away. And I think sometimes you do have that thing where like you'll meet someone and you're just like, not just the way you're talking. I've met you for like 10 minutes. I'm like,
to get away from you.
Even though they haven't done anything, but you're like, I know the type of person you are. And it's like, it feels, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you're being a dickhead. But like, at the same time, I'm like, I know where it's gonna go. I've seen this person like 100 times before. So it's like a very strange thing. But it's like, you know, it's worse than if you just went along with it and then let them come in and like do whatever they're gonna do, and then it kind of backfires even worse, you know. So someone disagrees with me out there, but
not fucking with your point. But I 100% agree, and that's something that I'm very careful of now. I'm kind of the person who, even amongst my friends, and they know that this isn't personal to them, I've always just been like this. I very much shut myself away sometimes in my room, because I'm very susceptible to energy, and I feel very sometimes it's enough having my own thoughts going on, having someone else's thoughts mixed in with that as well, or someone else's energy mixed in with that as well. It can be a lot for me. And I find that if I meet somebody and they're like how you're saying, and I meet them and I'm like, okay, yeah, I know this person. I can already see their intentions. I can see what they're trying to do. I can see how they're moving, and it doesn't sit right with me. I believe that's just like, that's either, it's like a message like from myself to myself to like, yeah, no, this isn't your person. Like, you should never feel that way. You should never feel like that way around someone's presence.
And even if it's like small things at first, sometimes it definitely like, because they're that person, and it's kind of like that. You know, like businessmen are known for playing like golf. There's like the reason for that is like because it's such like a dumb game. So they go and play golf with someone, and if you're like planning on doing like a massive business thing with them, and they're cheating at like a golf game that doesn't mean anything, then you're immediately like, well, no, I'm not doing that with you.
I didn't know that's why.
Yeah, that's like one of the big reasons, because if they're doing it on something that like really doesn't matter and it's meant to be casual, like they're going to be way worse when it's like shit that matters. And like, I don't know whether there's like a creative artist equivalent to playing golf, but like, you know, like
I'm not sure.
You do meet people and do stuff with people, and you get those sort of signs, and you're just there's so much just, if you're doing that now and that's the way you're thinking, like, I'm not gonna
exactly
put my shit on.
That kind of reminded me though, like the thing you're saying about golf is like, I know this is such a common thing to be said, but it's like, you know, how people talk about, you know, life and chess, and how life is like a game of chess. That's something that I very much related to more in like probably the last year, where it's like, as I said, some things are not out of our control. I mean, with creativity, some things are out of our control, and I'm thinking of it from a creative mindset. But at the same time, is that everything is a chess game, and if you play your cards right, then, like you said, you will end up in the room where something is going on, which then leads to the idea, which then leads to this. So it's like, I feel like everything is,
nothing's isolated. It's just all, you know, the move you made 10 minutes ago comes and kicks you in the arse or helps you out, you know what I mean? So it's sort of...
But because it's a chess game, it's like everything is within your control. Like you can, if you see, and you can see the board, and if you have a plan and you have a vision, you have to trust it wholeheartedly and trust that you're going to make the right moves on the board to get there. And
it's interesting because it's in your control, but it's like if you make, it's like that one force move, it's that knock-on effect of like, oh, now I've
which is why you trust your intuition. And why you go with what you know is right. It's like how
you play a bit defensively at those times rather than trying to attack. We're talking about chess, like
it's crazy. But I just wanted to go on from that and to say, like, it's like if you go through life, and for instance, I used to be a big people pleaser and would, you know, care way too much as well about what people would think of me. I would always want to be perceived as good, and now I don't really care how people perceive me because I know who I am. But I think it's like that kind of thing where if you go through life and you're trying to and you're acting in that way, then for instance you're going to end up making the wrong moves. But if you are very much not just 100% selfish, you have to do things for other people as well, and you should, but you have to also be locked in on whatever your vision is for your future. And you have to live that in the present moment, and you shouldn't be living someone else's future in the present moment because of how they might feel or how it might affect them, because that's more about them. Like if they, for instance, if you didn't want to hang out with somebody and they got very upset by that, that's about them. Like you don't feel bad about that.
Well, it's that whole thing that you can't sort someone else's shit out for them. You know what I mean? Like you can only, but you can't even begin to help someone else. Like if your own shit is like falling apart, if you're like stressed out all the time, not sleeping, fucked up, and then someone else needs a hand, like obviously you can't help them because you're not in a good position. But if you can sort yourself out, then you can sort of offer a hand and help out. You still can't solve it for them. Like they still have to do it themselves a little bit. But it's and it's strange how that can apply to creativity as well. Because there's like creatives as well that will try and like work with someone and really just be like, I'm going to turn up and you're going to do all the work for me and I'm going to take half the credit, and stuff like that happens like countless times. And it's that thing of just being like, not picky, but
and at the same time there will be, I've heard from, like, for instance, I've heard from producers I've worked with, or anyone I've worked with, that a lot of the times people will come and they'll have that attitude and that energy, and that not only does it stop the creativity flowing as easily, but it also, like, that they can be very, like, demanding about, like, nah, do it this way, and they won't take any advice from anyone else. If I'm in the studio, I'm recording with someone, and they tell me, I think you should do it more like this, or like, I hear what you're going for, but what about this? Then I love that, because I haven't thought about it in that way yet. And if they're thinking that, then of course someone else who's listening to it is going to think that as well. Yeah. And now I'm like, okay, that's great, because now we've already beaten a hurdle that would have been there that I wouldn't have even seen, because I was so locked in on this. So now you've opened my eyes and been like, oh shit, it could come across like that. Oh, okay, okay, then how about we try this instead? And like, but I think a lot of people, again, their ego can get in the way of creativity. And like,
yeah, and I find as well, like, as like photographers and videographers, we were often probably, when we're working, we tend to be in the position that like a producer's in, where you're working to make someone else's or photographs for someone else's brand or whatever it is, etc. And I think, like, because I started as like fine art photographer, and then was like, I need to make some money because the lights will turn off at some point. So I like, but in my like older, more like corporate or like professional work, I used to get in the mentality of just like, just get exactly what they want and just do exactly that. And then you realize as like you go along, it's like not everyone knows exactly what they want, and you have to bring something to the table. You can't just be like, so what do you want? Do exactly that. And then they're like, this isn't how I thought it was going to turn out. And then in the back of my mind, I'm going, this is exactly how it was always going to come out, because of you said this, that had to be this way, even though I knew in the back of my mind it's not going to work as they think it would. Exactly. And it's like,
that's the thing, they have to trust
it can go the other way. But and like you say, they have to trust you to be like, no, let's do it slightly different. Oh, have you considered this problem? But it's like, and I think it comes with just as you do more stuff, you get better at like working with people and kind of, again, avoiding those people who aren't willing to listen and stuff.
And you still got to be firm as well, and just be like, yeah, I hear you, but no, like, that's just not, I'm sorry, that's just not going to work. Then when you don't, then they're unhappy, and then it's like, again, like, you could have just said that to begin with, just be like, look, that's just not how it works. Like, it's not gonna work, mate. Like, I'm sorry, but it's just
and you have to get very good at saying it in a way that won't like hurt their feelings.
Exactly.
It's almost like a weird, like,
especially when it's a client, you still want to work with them, you still want your money from them. So like, you know what I mean? You can't upset them too much, but you got to tell them like, I'm sorry. Really
it doesn't work like that. It's like, and things like that. As I used to just be like, oh shit, we should be, because like we're like in here, we're still building up different kit and stuff, and some people will come in and just ask for shit that would be like, okay, if we realistically want to do that, we're gonna have to book out like a £10,000 crane or something, or like hire out an insane amount of kit, and we're just like, we can't accommodate. But in the back of your mind, you're like, oh fuck, we have to like try. And then even though if you know you can't, and it kind of, that's another way where it just like spirals when you could just find an alternative, which is like a different thing.
That's just something you learn in business though over time. Like I found that with the events thing, like I feel like every show, and this isn't to like shit on my thing, but I just feel like, just being completely honest, every show there's something small in some way that goes wrong, and it doesn't really affect the attendees. That's why I'm like, it's fine. Like everyone still has a good night, it's great, it's fine. But each time there's always something where I'm like, okay, I feel like I could have done this better this time. Yeah. And I like, and
that's not necessarily something going wrong. That's just something that you're now like, because you've got everything else right. You can look at that and be like, okay, next time if we do a tiny thing here, then it just keeps
and that's why I feel like each time it's like, I've learned something new, because at first it's like we wanted to start it, but we didn't know what we were fucking doing. Like we had no idea. We just put on a show and a bunch of people showed up, and we were like, oh, sick. This is now a thing. Like we've built a brand. Like we're still building one, but you know, it was, people really liked the vision, so we were like, okay, cool, let's run with it. But you know, it is a thing where we were both very new to it, new to the events, and new to being in business, and like I said, it's just something which each time, sometimes it can get frustrating if you feel like, oh fuck's it, I should have done this. Like why did? But you know, it's something that each time you just learn from. It's never an L, because it is, but L stands for lesson, not for loss. That's what I like to think anyway. So I never like.
There's a positive spin on it.
Yeah. So yeah, there's always a learning curve, and then it's just a way to be better next time. So that you just take accountability for it. A lot of people want to blame someone else. But I did that because of this. Like, and if this didn't happen, but it's like, and I even like, I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I've definitely done that before as well. But like, you have to catch yourself out and be like, okay, yeah, but I should have just done this. Like, but what if I just done this instead? Like, then it wouldn't have even arose in the first place.
Yeah, and it's like, well, how are we going to avoid it next time?
Exactly.
Make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
like,
it's if you just say, it's completely this, and it's nothing as if it's my fault at all. Well, then how do you stop it from happening if it's not your fault at all?
Yeah,
it's some way is your fault. Like, in some way.
Well, you were involved, so if it's your fault when it goes right, then it's your fault when it goes wrong.
Exactly.
You know
you can't. That's a really good way of thinking of it. To be fair, you can't take the wins, but then ignore the losses and be like, "Well, they're not my fault." Yeah, the wins, I'll take them. That's all me. I did that. I'm sick, but anything that goes wrong, fuck that.
Yeah,
I'm not involved. That wasn't me. You can't do that.
Yeah. I feel that's a good message to end on.
Yeah.
So, unless you've got some wise words from.
I think I touched on like any main points I wanted to make.
Yeah. Unless there's any other shout outs or someone who's going to get annoyed if you don't mention them.
Well, I did already shout out Dead Star, but I would also like to just say with Still Breathing Events, he has been a massive help with that, and he does run that alongside me. He would also probably be very good to have on a podcast, to be fair.
That's good to know. I'll get an Instagram.
He does Still Breathing with me, and also he's a producer and makes music, and he's been doing this stuff for a long time. We've also got some music coming out at some point. We've been working on stuff for years, but it's like, I think since we started Still Breathing, we got so busy with that we've just not ended up dropping the music. We just end up performing it. No one really knows the words, but they like it. We're like, yeah, cool.
It's even better.
That's something which this year I'm trying to get better at, just dropping it and having a plan behind it. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, shout out my family, my mum, my little sister, my brother, and my dad. And my external family, they're going to get upset now. Everyone, shout out everyone. Let's just shout out everyone. Shout out my mum especially, though. Shout out my mum. Yeah.
Nice. Cool.